Can I start recording now? Okay. Hi guys, welcome back to Say Hello to Me. I am so excited to share a little sneak peek into our nursery as well as my birth story. It's funny because, you know, they always tell you, like, when you're going to go into labor, like when you hit like the 8th or 9th month, you should make your birth plan. Like the things that are like wants, needs, absolutely won't do, things like that. So I had created this birth plan. I was ready. I was like psyched myself up for the pain, for everything. And then things went a little differently. So this is my birth story. I'm super excited to share it with you guys. And yeah, it started off on Friday, September 3rd. I had noticed that I was leaking some fluid. I wasn't sure like what type of fluid, but I was like, okay, is this like amniotic fluid? Am I in labor? What's happening? So Terrell and I decided to go to the hospital so they could check it out. So they do this little test where they can check the fluid to see if it's amniotic fluid or not. If it is, then they need to admit you to the hospital because it's time to go into labor. And if it's not, then they typically would send you home. But regardless, when you go into the triage area, they will set you up with these little like Doppler things that connect to your belly, and it checks the baby's heartbeat as well as their heart rate. So you like can hear their heartbeat. It's so beautiful, and then you can see their heart rate on the monitor. So they test our fluid for amniotic fluid. They notice that there's no amniotic fluid, so then they decide to keep us there. And we're kind of wondering, like, okay, if it wasn't amniotic fluid, if I'm not in labor, why are we still here? And they said that with Huey's heart rate, they were noticing that there wasn't a lot of variation. And typically when the baby moves, they should see some spikes in the heart rate on the monitor thing. And they didn't notice that, so they wanted to keep us to do a longer non-stress test to see if they could see variation. They did things to try to like spike the variation. So they gave me like apple juice, they gave me ice water. They did this like sound machine thing that can like sometimes make the baby like want to move, all these different things. And they noticed that they still didn't see a lot of variation. So because of that, they decided to call the OBGYN that was on call. My OBGYN was on vacation, so they couldn't call her, but they called the OBGYN from my practice that was on call. And she read the strip that shows the variations and saw that they were pretty flat, like there wasn't a lot of variation. And so she decided that I should get a ultrasound, and it was like a more in-depth ultrasound. It was like they checked his brain function, they checked his heart rate, they checked his breathing, everything. Like they just, it was like a 35-40 minute ultrasound where they checked everything out, made sure everything looked good. Everything looked great on the ultrasound. So the OBGYN on call said maybe it was just like a sleep cycle that he was going through. We'll come back and check it all out tomorrow. So come back tomorrow, we'll do another test and see if it's the same thing or if it's changed. It could just be that he was sleeping today. So come Saturday, we come back on Saturday, we do the same thing, we check in, they strap me up to the little Doppler things, we sit there for 20 minutes, and same result. They notice that there's no real variation. The nurse seems to be concerned. She's like, yeah, we don't like to see that. We love to see the spikes and the variations in the heart rate. We don't like to see it be as flat as it is. But they called the OBGYN on call, the same woman from the day before, and she was like, oh, he must just be a chill baby. It's fine. We don't need to do anything. Send them home. So Terrell is like, what do you mean send them home? Like, we had to come back again today. Like, it's the same result. Like, you would think that if it's the same result, that means that something, you know, went wrong. But they were like, rest assured, everything's fine. You can go home. You're good. So at this point, I'm 38 weeks and 4 days, I think. 38 weeks and 4 or 38 weeks and 5. So typically I have my appointments with my OBGYN on Mondays, but then that Monday, that was after me going to the hospital on Friday and Saturday, was Labor Day. So the office was closed. So my next appointment, my 39-week appointment, was on Wednesday. So my mom came into town on Tuesday, and then my 39-week appointment was Wednesday afternoon. So we go in, and my OBGYN, like pretty much the moment she comes in the room and we see her, she's like, I really didn't like the strip from that non-stress test you took in the hospital. I want you to go back into the hospital, have them do another non-stress test. If it shows the same results, we're gonna admit you and induce you for labor. And I was like, whoa, I was like, before it seemed like it wasn't that big of a deal, and now you're like, let's go to labor. And she was like, yeah. She's like, well, my biggest thing is not only your health, but the baby's health. She was like, nothing changes really between 39 and 40 weeks. Like, it's totally fine if he delivers at 39. Let's just make sure that we have a healthy and safe baby. And I said, you know, obviously, same idea, love that. So we go to the hospital, same result, no variations on the non-stress test. So they admit us to the hospital. And when they want to induce you, they want your cervix to be somewhat opened and like showing that you're, you know, can get the baby through your vagina. So I was not dilated at all. Like, she like checked my cervix and was like, oh, you're fully closed, like 0, 0. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, but like, he just doesn't want to come out clearly. So they did something called Cervidil, where they basically check your, that they insert it into your cervix, and it's supposed to soften the cervix to then allow you to start the Pitocin to induce labor to then have a baby. So with the Cervidil, it has to stay in for 12 hours. So we were there, this is Wednesday the 8th of September. We're there probably like 4 o'clock, and then they put in the Cervidil around 7 p.m. So we have to have it in for 12 hours. So we go to sleep, you know, they're monitoring us the whole night. They're monitoring his heart rate on the machine throughout the whole night. They still say, like, you know, not a lot of variation, but we're monitoring it. So when the 12 hours are up, they take the Cervidil out and then they check your cervix. I just knew. I was like, yes, like, I've been sitting here all night, like, we're gonna have a crazy, like, I'm gonna be like 8 centimeters dilated. No, 0 centimeters, no change. I was just like, oh my gosh, why is it happening? So luckily my OBGYN was the one that was on call the night that, or the day on that Thursday. So this is Thursday the 9th. She was the one that was on call. So she comes in first thing in the morning. She's like, okay, she's like, we don't see any change. So we have 3 options. We can do a C-section, which I was like, no, I already knew that was not in my birth plan. I had no desire to do a C-section. I was like, that's already out the window. We don't want to do that. We could do the Cervidil again, which would be another 12 hours of having to sit in the hardest bed I've ever sat in my life. So I was like, definitely don't want to do that. And it could be like, you know, we do another 12 hours and just doesn't work. So I was like, not interested. And then the third option was to do a Pitocin test, which was basically like testing my body and the baby to see how he would tolerate labor with being induced with Pitocin. So that was the option that Terrell and I chose, because we were like, let's just try it out. Like, they said that the pain was going to pick up. I was like mentally preparing myself for the pain, everything like that. So we tell the doctor, like, that's the route we want to take to do the Pitocin. And she's like, okay. She's like, I'm also going to just check in with one of my colleagues just to see, have her read the strip as well, just to get someone else's eyes on it, and I'll come back in. Literally, like, 5-10 minutes later, she comes in and she's like, well, the Pitocin option's not gonna work. And we were like, oh, what do you mean? And she was like, well, we looked at the strip and just recently his heart rate dipped a little, and if they ever see a dip in their heart rate, it's just a reason to be alarmed and a reason to make a change. So they decided that with the fact that the heart rate dipped, that they would not do the Pitocin, they would not do the Cervidil, and that we were going to be doing a C-section. And I was like, oh, like, obviously, you know, not my birth plan, not what I wanted to do, but at the end of the day, it was what was going to be the safest option for me, the safest option for Huey. So I just said, okay. So it was probably within 10 minutes, because they also said that because his heart rate dipped, that they would have to deem it an urgent C-section. So with that, they basically told Terrell and I both, like, just grab all of your stuff, because when you're in the hospital, first you're in like a labor and delivery room, then you go to like your room, which is like where you'll be for the 2 days that you're in the hospital. So we had to pack up all of our stuff. Terrell was like frantically packing everything. They wheel me to the operating room, they do the epidural, they lay me on the table. Terrell then comes in, and I'm like everything's just happening kind of like as a whirlwind. And then Terrell comes in and they say, is everybody ready? And everybody's like, yes. And then they say cut, and they just, I don't know, I couldn't feel it, but I guess they're cutting me open. And it was probably under 10 minutes that, like, Terrell, they allow, at a certain point, they allow Terrell to stand up and look on the other side of the curtain if he wants to. So he looks over and he's just like, oh, I see him, I see him. And then next thing you know, like, I can't see anything, but next thing you know, you just hear like crying. And then our OBGYN like holds him up over the little sheet, and I see his little face for the first time, and he's like crying like crazy. And it's just so special. It was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I didn't expect, I don't know what I expected, because, you know, it was a C-section. I had this whole other idea in my head of what my labor experience would be like, and then it went completely opposite. But it was just so beautiful because he made his way into the world safely. He was crying like immediately, which we were worried about because they weren't sure. The cord was wrapped around his neck. They weren't sure like what was going to happen. They had the NICU nurses right there on hand. They took him away, checked his vitals, and then brought him back in. He was totally fine. And yeah, he made his way into the world at 10:47 a.m. on September 9th, and he was 7 pounds, and he was perfect. Like, he was the perfect little baby. He still is the perfect little baby. And yeah, I think that the reason that I thought it was important for me to share my birth story was because I had this whole idea of what labor was. I had this whole idea of what everything that had to do with having a baby was. I had this idea of what pregnancy was. I had this idea of what labor would be. And, you know, you get pregnant and you go see your doctor, you do all the right things, like you get your vitals checked, and then you expect to just walk in, have the baby, leave, and, you know, go on with your life. But there are so many scenarios when it comes to having a baby. There are so many things that can go wrong, but there are a lot of things that can also go right. So that's why I just stress the importance of having a really, really awesome OBGYN, an awesome relationship with your OBGYN, and to speak openly about the things that you know, are unsure of. We were asking tons of questions throughout the entire process because, like I said, our birth plan completely was derailed. So I just feel like it's a blessing that we had the OBGYN that we did, as well as that we had friends. Like, we had friends and family that are in the medical field as well that we were reaching out to just to kind of see like if they could explain it even better for us in like layman's terms. But yeah, it all in all, it didn't go what we thought it was gonna go, but it was the perfect birth for us. Huey is healthy, he's growing, he's so beautiful. I'm looking down at him right now. And yeah, I just feel blessed to have brought him into this world, and that we are both safe, we're both healthy. Having a C-section was definitely different. Like, I didn't expect to be cut open and like all the things they have to do to bring the baby out and then your placenta out. It's a lot. But I'm healing well. Everything just feels good. So I just feel very blessed that I'm Huey's mom. And yeah, we're a month in and a lifetime to go. So if you have questions about my birth plan, please put it in the comments, ask away. If you have things that you want to share about your birth plan that were similar to mine, or things that you want to share just about your birth story, please let me know. And yeah, I'm so excited to share more about our lives. I feel like I kind of fell off of YouTube for a little bit, but we are back. I'm not jinxing myself and just saying at this time, we are back. So I can't wait to share all the different things about being a mom and a wife and a woman and just a person. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Do you want to say hi? Say bye.